have actually read the book, because I know there's going to be a book club. Rainy's going to have a book club discussion about it. Has anybody actually read it yet? Nobody? It's a really great romance. And the last chapter has awesome sex in it. I wrote this book for three reasons. One is that in my work with Women Thrive Worldwide, going on interminable bus rides through Central America or Africa on long, bumpy roads to visit women who live literally on $1 a day or less. And, you know, most of the impression that we get of these women from the media is that they are downtrodden, they've got the flies in their eyes, you know, their kids all have dirty faces and beat up clothing. What I saw was really something different. I saw women who were brilliant, much smarter than I am, women who had incredible tenacity to figure out how to scrape together enough food and shelter and clothing for their children. And I wanted to tell a story about how women around the world, these are people who are in the bottom 2% income group in the world, how they really are ending poverty for themselves and their families with very, very little help from the outside. And what they really want is not a handout. They actually don't even want a micro-enterprise loan. What they really want is the power to change their own circumstances. A lot of it is just having voice. That's our job, is to not to make friends, you know, not to get everybody to love us, because I can tell you not everybody in Washington loves us, but we're there to make noise for women and girls. And even on a good day in this war-ravaged, impoverished land, women experience discrimination. On a day like that of the tsunami, when chaos prevails, they are thoroughly abused. First, they did not stand much of a chance against the monstrous waves. Most women were wearing traditional clothing, skirts, dresses, and saris, that didn't allow them to run very fast. A survey of villages in Indonesia showed that 80% of the dead were women. In the district of Batticaloa in Sri Lanka, a survey by a grassroots women's organization found that 64% of the children that died were girls and 91% of the adults were women. By sunset, more than 35,000 Sri Lankans were dead and 826,000 were homeless. Since that tsunami, I sometimes have a recurring dream. My two sons are too young to swim yet, but they are too heavy for me to carry both of them. I can only swim with one. Whom do I hold on to and whom do I let go? So I will ask you to write your members of Congress. I know everybody's tired of hearing that, and you get tired of hearing it on every single issue under the sun. But for this issue, on global women's issues, there is complete radio silence. So when I walk around on Capitol Hill and I go into an office, and well-meaning staff, they would like to help, but usually what I hear is, hey, we're not hearing anything from our constituents about this. They don't seem to care about it. And in fact, I just got 5 constituent letters telling us to cut $400. Do any of you know what percentage of the federal budget we actually spend on international aid programs? Say it louder. That's pretty close. You're the first person who has ever guessed too low. It's about half of 1%. So 1% of the federal budget goes to fund the State Department and all the embassies and foreign military financing for the Iraqi army and all that. That's in the 1%, right? Half of 1% is actually the good stuff that immunizes children and provides HIV/AIDS medications or helps women farmers around the world. It's half of 1%. Start one. The next time you're at your favorite clothing store in the mall and the store associate asks if you need any help, this is your opportunity to respond. You can say, yes, actually, I want to know more about the clothes that I buy. Can you tell me if your products are made ethically? You can also say, Do you have a sweatshop policy? Something like that. The associate will probably get flustered, and they might ask you to restate your question. Made what? To which you can respond ethically with good conditions, good pay for the workers, things like that. He or she might say, of course they're made ethically. And you can encourage them to let customers know more about their ethical procedures and processes. You can say, that's great to know. I'm sure many people would love to know that and would feel good about buying products here. Will you tell your manager I mentioned it and that I'd like to see you post that policy? So, I hate to say it, but, the poverty business is a business, and you really do need to ask these questions of the organizations that you're supporting, whether it's CARE or Oxfam or Save the Children. Believe me, my closest friends work in all these organizations. I know them well. They give Women Thrive money to do the advocacy that we do. But I do think that part of our job is to push them to be accountable as well to the people that they serve. You can ask an organization, you can talk to Kiva or email them or any one of these, Opportunity International, whatever, and say, do you have a gender policy? Do you have a policy that requires that you look at these gender dynamics between men and women? That's question one. And question two is, how long does it normally take for your entry-level clients to repay their first loan? And if they say something less than a year, you don't want to work with them. And they will brag. They have an incentive to say, oh, it's a year, 6 months, 2 months, 3 months. That's actually not what you want to hear. You want to hear something that is, 1 to 2, maybe 3 years, that kind of thing, because what that says to you is their program is a lot more sustainable, and it's a lot more involved, and it's probably a lot more successful.
Are you, as you're going around talking to these women, or is someone collecting a lot more data? Because sometimes it's looking for other commonalities, because sometimes to solve a problem, you must first describe it really well. And if you can find other commonalities, that you can point solutions towards them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So this is a great question, because there is very little data that is collected that is separated by male, female, right? Which is totally stupid, but there's a reason why it's not. Because if you started to separate the data by males and females, of course, what do you think you're going to find? Right? You think you're going to find that it's equal for men and women? No. You're going to begin to unmask and uncover all of these inequalities. So a lot of the developing country governments, they don't want to collect that data, right? So they don't. And one of the biggest problems that we have in this field is the lack of reliable data. We have it on health and on family planning use, because donors have poured huge amounts of money into that. But outside of like HIV/AIDS and use of family planning and fertility rates and things like that, we don't have a lot of information. We don't really know anything about women's economic decision-making versus men. We don't know anything about what really keeps girls in school versus boys. We're just beginning to scratch the surface on actually getting the information, which, as you point out, is so basic. It's so basic. So even that is part of the fight for women's rights. And just getting the information is a fight. That's part of the fight that we have to fight. So I wish I could say, yes, of course, the data's all there, but nothing is without politics. Nothing is without people's vested interests and how those play a role.
Thank you for being with us.
Oh, you are welcome. Yes. My feeling is that the oil industry has their lobbyists, the real estate association has their lobbyist, has a lobbyist in Washington. Women and girls who live on $1 a day or less, they deserve to have a lobbyist in Washington, and that lobbyist should be really damn good. So that's the way that we built the organization, and that's essentially what we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.